Okay, we're recording.
Thank you. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
And Kevin, so you know, I've got both recordings running today.
Both recorders?
Yesterday, she forgot to start the Zoom.
Oh.
Yeah, Phil, we
We
missed like
both
15 minutes.
forgot it. I was the co-host. Both of us. I said, go ahead, start recording. So she did, but only on the audio.
This thing isn't listening. Okay. 5 o'clock. It is 5 o'clock. This is Councilor Bill Solms. I'm calling this special meeting of the Ledyard Town Council Finance Committee to order. Present are committee members, myself, Tim Ryan, Andra Ingalls, and also Councilors Dombrowski and Rodriguez, Finance Director Matt Bonin. I always forget somebody where they do this time. Oh, Roxanne. Martin. We do not have minutes to approve, so I would entertain a motion to propose a fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, but I think first we're going to have to discuss it because we don't know what we're going to do. 3 choices were presented last night. We have, and the mayor just joined us. So we have 3 options. The increases in healthcare costs and heavy trucks would, if added to the budget, increase the mill rate from 0.1 to a 0.1 mil increase to a 0.27 mil increase. That's option 1. Option 2 is to cut that money out of the budget so we get back to a 0.1 mil increase. And option 3 is to help me. I just lost my 3rd option.
Was that the
The
ARPA
ARPA.
option?
Well, no, I wasn't,
No.
that originally wasn't option 3.
No,
No, I'm forgetting. Hold
doing a total blank.
on.
Just said it last night.
Here we go. And option 3 was, well, no, it was, yeah, adjust, to further deplete the mill rate stabilization.
Oh, the mill rates, yeah, so
Stabilization.
further.
But there is an
reduce-
option 4 now.
And there is an option 4 that we could add to the table, and that is to use some ARPA funds to pay for road restoration, which is infrastructure. So let's talk about that first, because I went through all of the ARPA funds, removed phase 2, which we were $400,000 short of all projects completed with ARPA funds. Removing phase 2, which was $632,000, frees up $190,000 left. So now we have a balance of 190, roughly.
Plus contingency.
I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So we have 190,000 left in ARPA funding that could and probably should be used for phase 2, because we just took phase 2 out. But we need some money to contribute because we're expecting developers to help pay for, not pay for the full phase 2 cost of phase 2. We also have a 10% contingency in our total calculations. So there's $432,000 not spent in ARPA funds with the assumption that costs are going to go up and we're going to need a contingency.
Which I think is a valid approach right now, given
guess so.
Given the economy.
Yeah, right.
the environment is incredible right now.
Right. So if we were to take the 190,000, which is close to the cost increase that we're seeing for the heavy truck and the healthcare, we could come back to a 0.1 mil increase.
Or close to it.
Or close to it. But we'd have no money for phase 2, and we'd have to go find that money somewhere. Point though, we don't do phase 2 until next year, maybe even later.
Right. Yeah, I would say it would probably definitely be later, because when we were in our budget workshops, you probably recall me leaving here, and I was summoned up to sign a 400-day extension for the design and engineering aspect of the sewer line, which Steve Maslin and I were just discussing, that totally throws off the sequencing of what we're
Yeah.
trying to do between getting the sewer line in the ground and getting the multi-use path on
Right.
top.
Right. So
I would say, yes, there will be additional time. We'll try to squeeze them as best we can, but
Yeah.
it's going to take longer.
I guess one of the questions, so, that idea is favorable to me because it's a good use for ARPA funds, infrastructure related, et cetera. I guess my only outstanding concern with that would be if we get to the point where we need to supply phase 2 funds.
Yeah.
And let's say that it comes to pass that we do need to eat in the contingency for all the other approved projects, right? Do we know? I mean, everybody's said that, oh, well, we're gonna see if the developers can kick in to help fund phase 2. Do we have any sort of plan or earmark for what we would expect developers to pay?
No,
So we're
No,
just
'cause
saying
I-
that they'll
yeah.
pay, but we don't know how much of
Right.
that 690,000.
yeah, because we're
632.
gonna
That's
have to
632.
come up with some fair, reasonable formula. Because let's say somebody that's hooking up to Lou's garage is gonna be vastly different than somebody hooking up 200 units of
Yeah.
apartments behind the center
That's right.
school.
That's right.
So it's not a simple formula. It's gotta be,
Yeah.
it's gotta
It's got some-
recognize
gotta be-
consumption.
and
Right.
scalability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I get all that, and I think that's admirable. What I'm saying is do we expect to offset the entire cost?
I don't think so.
Okay. But a significant portion.
Yeah, I would like to think half the cost
That's what I've been thinking. of.
Okay.
is reasonable and
yeah.
saying, and I think that developers would buy into that.
Yeah.
That the
Have they been
town,
approached? Has anybody?
yeah, I've talked to Mr. Monarca across the street and he's very excited about it. And he knows that there will be a cost to him. He doesn't know
Yeah.
what the cost is yet because we haven't been able to nail that down, but
Right.
he's fully expecting to pay something for that.
Good.
That's the owner of
The
Lincoln
Lincoln Center
Center.
School, exactly.
So here's another option. What if we applied for yet another grant
Right.
for economic development or something else?
Steep grant.
Steep grant, yeah.
Is that an annual thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and we do expect that they will be doing them again because the state is magically quite flush this year.
Hmm.
So we think steep grants will be coming out again.
Bonuses.
It's
The one thing with steep grants is, and we've heard from Gales Ferry people that we've done all of this on this side of town
Yeah.
with, I think three steep grants out here, none down there.
Yeah.
And we put in ARPA, the $15,000 to do the feasibility study of the Gales Ferry corridor so that we could apply for a steep grant.
Right.
Of which we can only apply for one.
Right.
So-
But we'll also have to add that the lack of getting a steep grant for Gales Ferry is not for lack of trying.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've tried before, and in fact, the last time we attempted to try, they said you need to have that our study was stale.
Right.
So they said you need to update that corridor study so that you can,
So I think the study we did
potentially
is like 2008.
yeah, it's
Dated.
yeah, more than a decade out of date at this point. Matt, did you share the potential adjustments that you and I talked about? Okay.
So worst
We've got
case.
more for you.
Option 5.
Another option.
Oh, okay.
Option 5.
It's just on the good side or the bad side?
No, it's
Right.
good.
I would say. it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's talk about it.
So the mayor and I were talking, there are a couple revenue lines that we think can be bumped up.
Okay.
One of those lines has to do with the increase in retiree healthcare, the 2.5% increase. They pay copay premiums too, so
Yeah.
that revenue line should go up 2.5% accordingly, so that's $14,000
Okay.
there. And also in talking building permit fees, those are just going
Skyrocketing.
gangbuster. We think we can bump that line up 25,000.
Okay, so it's 34.
So that's 34. You were that email from Marcia this morning, there was a disconnect with the taxpayer funded capital total and what was
Yes,
showing in ClearGov.
Yeah,
So that even factoring in the additional 50K that you need for the public works heavy equipment, that there's a $9,000 decrease there, 9,115. So that decrease coupled with that those additional revenues that we, you know, we think would work, that would get you to a 0.23 mill rate increase.
Okay. So just a general comment, I grew up with inflation when I was in high school. And I was telling Fred this yesterday. I recall that the interest rates hit 21% around 1981.
Yep. I remember that.
And so inflation doesn't just go away suddenly. It hangs around for a while. We have no indication that it's going to hang around. But
then again, just a comment is like, one of the things you talked about is like billing application fees.
Hmm.
But, based upon like the report I heard on the way home from work, matter of fact, they're talking that the, because the interest have gone up, interest
Yeah.
rates are now like 5.6
yeah,
for homes.
Yep.
The market is stagnating
soften, yeah.
and it's starting to.
Stagnant? Okay.
It's actually gone down.
Yeah, yeah.
By like.
Yeah.
The new home purchases.
Yep.
Has gone down by almost 10%
Okay,
in the
Wow.
last month.
wow,
So
yeah,
right now they're starting to be, a month or two ago, we were looking at a housing shortage of available properties.
Yeah.
Now there's starting to be a surplus of properties on the
Okay.
market.
okay. So,
But it's to the point. As
Who
far as
knows?
the economy, you don't know if that's gonna turn around quickly or
right,
long-term like it did in the early 80s where it didn't clear until like 1992.
I
Right.
do think that we're much better at managing inflation as a country. I think the whole world is, but
Hmm.
this country is better at managing inflation than it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
So we do have proven mechanisms and, interest rates went up, market softened, that slows inflation.
My only concern is that banking on housing permits as
Right.
the fill-in gap,
Yeah, yeah,
we may not, that may
We may not
dwindle
see
off.
that.
We may
Yeah.
not see
Right.
that,
right,
the revenue that you
Right.
see for housing permits we have today in 2024, when we start thinking about phase two, that may not be there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's utilities. If Europe stops buying oil and coal from Russia, then utilities are going to skyrocket.
Mhm.
Gary was telling me last night that they're selling gas, they're pricing gasoline and fuel oil based on May futures.
Right.
Prices are dropping on the spot market right now, but futures are,
They're up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, that's going to hurt the town.
Right.
So my point is, I'm really concerned about inflation and our budget going into a deficit for this first time in who
Yeah.
knows how many
Right.
years. I think it's very responsible. I think it's very tight. I'm reluctant to count any revenue that we're not sure we've got or to cut anything out of line items, because I think we're gonna run close.
Yeah.
My greatest concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think we budgeted something like 21% increase on fuel costs. But again, that was taking Steve's best guess
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
But we all know that that's a moving target. It seems like all the time right now with fuel, so
Yeah.
it could go higher.
So we could take a gamble on the 190,000
Right.
in ARPA.
Well, I mean, and that's what I was thinking about before we discussed option 5. Was the 190,000, the total cost for phase 2 is 612, at least that's what we have
Yeah,
in here.
right,
And so the 190,000 only pays for about a third of that anyway.
right.
And so worst case scenario, we eat into the entire contingency with all the other projects that we approve
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
inflation
right,
or whatever.
Mhm.
190,000 doesn't get us there anyway
Well,
for phase 2. It pays
Yeah,
a portion of it.
but again, we're expecting developers to pay for port.
Right.
Right.
And we would
No, I agree.
probably
Yeah.
apply
So,
for grant.
It's, well, and so,
Yeah.
so that to me, I didn't realize that we could reapply for the same project. So
Oh,
that-
yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Good. So then that to me, that's great because we're still 400 days off.
Yeah, I know.
I would think like for phase 2, I would think the grant path would probably be the better way,
Yeah.
the true
Mhm.
economic development.
Yeah,
Or would you, and we're getting a little off track, but just out of curiosity, would you be able to partner the grant funding with charging developers, or would it have to be all grant?
no,
That's the case.
we can
Okay. I
definitely
didn't know
do
if there
that,
would be a
yeah.
requirement there where if you're getting a grant from
Yeah.
the state,
Yeah, like it's a match, right?
Match, right?
double
yeah.
dipping.
Yeah, I mean, we
All right.
actually just did one surprisingly through the COG, and the match came from private funding.
Yeah,
So the
okay.
COG didn't put the money forward, it was from a private business, which I thought was unheard of, and we just said, okay, we'll be incredibly transparent about this, just let people know that a private enterprise put up this grant money for us.
Mhm, mhm.
The same concept would be true in this case, where we're saying, the following developers are providing the match for this
Yeah.
project, and just make it clear to everybody
Yeah.
that's where it is.
Yeah.
I think it's doable.
All right, so I want to play devil's advocate and introduce another angle. And that is, we have a very small mill rate increase in this budget, whether it's 0.1 or 0.27, it's very small. And if we get into trouble next year, the lower the mill rate increase this year, the greater it's going to have to be the following year, if we're in trouble. So we've talked in years past about, could we, do various things where we'd have a 0 mill increase or even a decrease. And the argument has always been, well, what happens the next year? Because
Right.
you got this big jump and people are upset again. And my own thinking has been that a small increase every year
Oh, yeah.
is much better than no increase, big increase, no increase, big increase, because we proved that, WPCA proved that.
Mhm.
Hold back the increases, don't pass along those water rate increases, and all of a sudden they're asking for a 30% increase. And
Yeah.
people flipped out, and
Exactly.
rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I personally think a steady increase is a more prudent thing to do. And, whether it's 0.1 or 0.27, I don't think it's that big a difference.
I
And
know.
I understand for all the people who decide which bill to pay,
Yeah.
it is a big
Yeah.
difference. But I also think we have to do the responsible thing with the budget so that we don't end up running into a deficit.
That's right.
So this is the difficult thing, and that's, I run this in my head all the time because, excuse me, because the whole budget is held in tension with one party pulling for a pot of dollars and this party's pulling for a pot, and everybody has an interest in some pot of dollars in that.
Right.
And everybody's interests are valid,
Yeah.
right? The department heads don't want to be cut.
Right.
Our employees want to raise.
Yep.
We want our roads, we
Yeah.
want our public safety.
Yeah.
These are all good things. And, Tim noticed this year's first year. I've noticed, you've noted, we sit with these department heads. They are thoughtful, they are careful
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
who are putting together careful plans, careful fiscal plans for their department. So, and then, there are people who want the schools to have every single thing they could ever want.
Yep.
And then there are people who are like, time out, I am on a fixed income.
Yeah.
I don't have children in the
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
Right.
There, so all of these interests are represented in the budget document,
Correct.
which is a
Mhm.
statement as a town
Right.
of our values and our priorities.
Yep.
And we try to be super careful about
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. I hear what you're saying about a small increase, but should people get used to the idea that they're necessarily going to be paying a little bit bigger percentage of their income every year necessarily? When does it stop? Like, take it to the
It
extreme,
doesn't.
and like,
It
when does
doesn't.
it stop?
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so then for the person on a fixed income, when does it stop?
yeah.
When do
Yeah.
they start feeling like they're getting more for their dollar? The answer is they're really not.
Right.
No.
So anyway.
But
all
they're
of these
paying,
things-
they're paying more for everything everywhere else.
So that
Right.
was another
That's
point
another-
that
yeah.
was
Right,
made.
but then
last
there's
night.
always been the,
Yeah.
years ago, my father-in-law used to make the comment that years ago, people would get a quarter raise. And
Yeah.
all of the businesses would go figure how they could get a part of the quarter.
Right,
Mhm.
Well, now a lot of people feel that I get a quarter raise and everybody's trying to get that quarter.
Yeah.
So,
right, right.
but
So,
they-
and if
but
it's
they
a
are
town trying to
feeling it.
get that part of
Yeah.
the quarter, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's feeling it. like I said, we've done, I think, you know, this committee, I applaud. You guys have done a great job, the town staff and under the mayor, you guys have done great to put this together. Do we want an increase? No. But as long as we can keep it low.
Yeah.
Keep it justifiable. Prefer zero. I think anybody does.
Sure.
But we do our best to get there.
One thing that and this is something that sometimes gets lost in the mire, but taxes aren't just a mill rate, right? So it's an assessment and the mill rate.
Right.
The mill rate's been pretty stable,
Mhm.
but we had a reassessment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My
Right.
taxes went up last year,
Yeah.
but mill rate didn't go up.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
so we're, you know, people, I'm sure I'm not the only one. That, you know, there are residents looking at, okay, mill rate stayed the same, that's great, my taxes still went up. And now they're minimally going up, would go up again in this
Right.
scenario. So it's a two factor thing. It's the assessment, which obviously we want to deal with that for another 5 years or 4 years now. But it's the assessment and the mill rate. So yeah, the mill rate is probably gonna end up going up steadily over the course of the next 4 years at some point, especially if costs keep going the way that they are. But Andre's point, and something I agree with, is, and I think that the staff has done a great job of doing, is trying to minimize what that increase is through other sources of revenue too.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's great if we can be honest with ourselves and say, well, you know, I really do think this revenue source could be increased. I think we should just do that, right? I mean, if you are confident in it, I'm not saying do that just to try and bring taxes down. I'm saying you might as well just be reasonable about it. Put that revenue in there and see what happens, you know, if you think that's something that you can stand behind. Again, in the goal of making a responsible budget. So
Yeah.
I think that with, you know, the other thing I think about with the ARPA funds, I was comparing the SIP with the ARPA, is that, let's say we approve the SIP as it is today,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The total amount of ARPA funds that are being used to fund the SIP is about $2.8 million.
Mhm.
Well, that still means we've got $1.3 million that we wouldn't be allocating today or tomorrow, town council, tomorrow, that is still in play for ARPA and doesn't have to be allocated right away.
Well, 1.2 of that, tomorrow night, we're gonna vote on.
Well, that 1.2 is in the 2.8, right? For the SIP?
It's not in SIP.
It's not in SIP?
No.
Okay. So that's on top of all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I retract my statement.
So I was telling the mayor that there are no updated figures on our capital or on our debt.
Oh, yes, and then you found
And
them.
then I found them
Yeah.
on OPM, and then I forgot to look. I just tried to look, and I'm not gonna waste all you guys' time on it. OPM ranks towns by equalized mill rate. And that's a very helpful tool to see where we stand. You know, everyone thinks their mill rate is, their taxes are really high where they live.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying they're not here, but it would be really helpful to know where we stand in the whole state.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, just interesting tidbit from last year. The average statewide mill rate was 31.5, and Ledyard by mill rate ranked the 59th highest out of 169
That
on
doesn't surprise
a
me.
mill rate
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
So
That's about where we are with debt vote too.
I think we
We're
are too.
57.
we used to be down more like 130,
Right.
140. The
Right.
school project obviously
Yeah.
being the biggest project we've ever undertaken, changed that dramatically.
But we're still pretty prudent.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I do remember, to your point, Andrew, when this budget was $30 million.
Oh,
The
yeah.
overall budget,
In the time
Yeah.
we've been on this council.
it's gone up
30
$20
million.
million.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the last 10
Yeah.
years.
So my concern this year too, and everybody knows this, is it's not just an $81 bump in your taxes. It's what they're feeling at the pump.
Yeah.
It's what they're paying for home heating
Correct.
oil.
Mm.
It's what they're paying at the grocery store.
Correct.
The tax assessor already let us know that your car tax is going way,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're
way
the
up.
highest in the nation
So-
for used vehicle values.
People are feeling it everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in making this as little as possible. And the other thing I hear is when people say, you know, I didn't get a raise this year,
Oh, yeah,
right?
right.
I'm paying for other people
Yeah.
to get a raise, but I didn't get one this year. And that's part of the tension of all of
Right.
this.
Yeah, right. So I fear that we're going to see greater increases in salaries, wages and salaries in coming years' budgets too, as a result of negotiations. And can't talk too much about what goes on in negotiations, but we are being presented figures with what the town pays. And we've known this for a long time.
Mhm,
The town doesn't pay as much as other towns.
mhm,
So we're being shown those numbers.
mhm.
And I'll stop there, but that's another consideration. So
Well,
I,
and that goes to next year, to your point.
exactly. Next year, I think we could see not just fuel, but not just everything else, but wages too. Plus, we have the minimum wage. You know, $15, $16 an hour. Everybody's got to, and they have a valid point. They have to bump up. If the bottom, if the floor is bumping up, all of a sudden now I'm earning minimum wage, I want to raise.
Right.
Because I don't want to be I was ahead of everybody else, or a lot of them.
Exactly.
So all those reasons, I think that small increases are, I think, better.
Yeah, I think it's easier for people to budget for those small ones as opposed to like the example used with the 30% increase in water rates that one year.
Right.
When that comes seemingly out of left field, it's shocking for people.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be in the position of shocking them with a huge mill rate increase.
Yeah.
So we tried to pare it down, and Matt and I talked about a couple things because I like round numbers. So I'm like, I don't like this awfully unround
Yeah.
number of 33.98.
Right. Right.
We had talked about how do we get that down to 33.95, 33.90, something like that.
Right.
And I think, what do we say, 7/10 of the mill is about $53,000 of reductions. Or a combination of reductions with revenue projection increases, which, we have 41 houses that are coming in for permits in the next 2 weeks. And then the other big one, of course, is it's not just houses, it's kitchen renovations, it's bathroom updates, it's pools, decks, and sheds, which seem to be incredibly busy right now. So it's a lot of things that collectively make up that building permit fee structure revenue stream.
Let's see if we can eliminate some options. So I'm just writing down
Okay.
the options. One is increase the mill rate. Two is, in a different order than we said before, further deplete the mill rate fund.
Yep.
Yeah.
And three is cut expenses somewhere. Four is ARPA funding for roads. And five is revenue.
6 would be a combination of all those.
Well, that's where I'm going. So if we eliminate something, we can work our way into it that way. So does anyone think we should further deplete the mill rate fund?
I wouldn't be.
I don't have a vote, but I don't.
I don't know what either, but
Not really.
Yeah, I'm looking for consensus because,
I say we don't touch the railroad stabilization
all right.
or contingency.
Does anyone think we should cut expenses out of somewhere?
I think the budget's pretty tight as it is.
I think it's tight and I think we're gonna need it.
I think we're gonna, yeah.
So that leaves increase the mill rate, ARPA for roads, and revenue. And if we took a little bit of each, maybe we have a solution.
Right.
So revenue, we had 14,000, 25,000.
Yeah, that was the co-share on the healthcare premium increase
Yeah,
for.
so that's pretty much a,
That gets us 2/100 of a mill right there.
yeah.
Right.
And then the increase in, what was the 25,000?
Building permit fees.
Permit fees. So what if we take half of that? To be conservative.
What went into that projection?
I assume the increase in fees. Or is this just an increase because of more permit?
Just
app-
Looking at activity.
How it's tracking,
okay.
yeah, how it's
Alright.
currently tracking, which is strong, and then we've got all these additional ones that are coming in.
Tracking over like the last 12 months.
Yeah,
and
just in
like-
the past year.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
do we want to count any of that?
If you cut it in half to 12.5, your mill rate increase is 0.24.
But what if that whole thing evaporated because people said, oh, not doing it after all? No more building
Yeah.
starts.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
it's probably, again, I mean, half of that is not gonna make a big splash at the end of the year in terms of how we adjust fiscally. Again, you're talking about 12 grand.
So why don't we use 12 grand?
Well, out of the 14, you're saying? Or
No,
12
out of
grand
the
total?
25.
Out of the
Yeah,
25,
25,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we got 14 from healthcare,
Yep.
12 from permits. And then the 9,000,
There was a 9,115 adjustment because there was that disconnect with the taxpayer funded column of the capital. So
so we can add 9,000 to this number?
I've already adjusted for that, yeah, so that gets you to a 0.24.
It's 35.
All right. And then ARPA. Tim, what do you think?
Well, I'm just doing the quick math here because the goal is $208,000 as I see it, which is what the
Yep.
increase is, right? So 208 minus 12 plus 14 plus 9, so that brings us to 173. So we would be using most of the balance left over for ARPA.
Yep.
Leaving 17 left as a positive balance in ARPA to offset the tax liability for the road restoration fund. I'm not sure I'm opposed to that.
Now you take the 17 and put in a contingency.
Correct.
So 17 is all that would be left for contingency.
No, oh, no,
No,
no.
no,
17
no.
is the balance on ARPA. It'd be a positive balance of 17 still. Kevin's
And-
saying is just
Okay.
add that to the 430 something.
430
Yeah.
That's in
contingency.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
so
right,
you-
got it.
So take the.
You'd end up with
Got it.
about $450,000 in contingency for ARPA, which will probably get eaten up. So,
And then we apply for steep grants or
Right.
others and developers to pay for that phase because we don't want to lose that.
Correct.
right.
Yeah,
No point
exactly.
Doing sewer planning.
No, agree. I think the grant initiative is probably the way to go for phase 2.
So it would be all grants. That would mean we would have no pot of money from ARPA to apply to phase 2.
Correct.
That's what we're saying.
We'd have
We
17,000.
would be depending on.
No,
okay,
we wouldn't have been able to do it anyway.
Right.
Right.
Right,
So-
right.
Right, you didn't have the funds.
Unless we start cutting other things from ARPA that aren't.
Right, well, okay, so to play devil's advocate, like, I think that's worth considering, but I'm gonna guess right now, since nobody brought it up, nobody wants to do that.
Do what?
Cut
Oh,
other things from
Oh,
ARPA, like
no,
with the
no.
things we haven't said yes to.
So I mentioned it.
Yeah, so what are some of the things that
So-
we have set aside? that we
So the
haven't cut?
ones that we,
I will say, I realize there are no like big ticket items, but
yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna find a 200,000 item.
So,
Right.
so let me read these out in descending order. These are projects that we're planning to add in the SIP if you guys go along with what I put together today. The largest one that has not already been approved is phase 3 of the sewer line, so we're not going to touch it. The next one is support funding for clinicians at 190,000.
Leave that one alone.
mhm,
The next one is the up-down sawmill at 125,000.
mhm.
That was just their high priority projects. It was,
No,
does not
that,
include.
they've
everything.
been, yeah.
Yep.
No,
The next one is the 2 dispatch stations in the EOC. I don't think we want to touch that. Next one, Playscape, I think that's it.
Harrison Park.
That
it's
is,
not.
no, that's the park behind the Gales Ferry Community Center on Winthrop
Yeah.
Drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was 65. Erickson is 55. Put my glasses back on.
Yeah.
Police radio, we don't want to touch that. Nathan Lester House is 40,000. That's repair, plaster, paint, interior of the museum. Repair, replace west side exterior. That's
They're all
40.
good things that we shouldn't cut.
Right, but we're gonna have to do it. That's
No, I agree. I agree.
unavoidable
I
cost,
agree.
yeah.
I mean, the Lester House lead paint abatement one, we've already eaten that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we really care? I mean,
Yeah, but this is the lead paint. This is further repairs, right? Or this. they're
This is
reimbursed.
further, yeah.
This
But I
this
do
is-
have the
I
30,000.
thought we had
in
the
there.
30,000 in there for the
Yeah.
lead paint abatement project,
Yeah.
so,
That's-
I mean, we've already
we've already spent it.
spent that, it's come out of our accounts.
So we could take
We
that
could
out.
take that 30
Okay.
out of the ARPA.
Yeah,
'cause
that was really
what
just to
the
reimburse us
reimburse.
for what we've already done, because it was not budgeted, of course.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
so take that one of ARPA because we've already paid for it.
There we go. So
Um,
now we're getting the reserve balance closer to 500,000.
Right.
There you go.
CCOG recovery planner, 28,000.
That's already in play.
No,
No, well, the person is in play, and right now the person is providing recovery planning services for towns that have paid. It's a matter of whether we feel like it's something that we would partake in. I personally, I was quizzed on how many businesses are struggling or failed as a result of COVID, and I said, I could only really think of the Subway in Gales Ferry that closed during that time. I couldn't come up with any.
That's been open, closed, open, and closed for
Yeah,
several years.
and it
so-
was kind of iffy along the way. So I don't know that we would really, I don't know that the town of Ledger would really utilize the recovery planner position at the COG. So of the different requests from like TVCCA and Ledge Light and the COG, I would say that the COG request is probably the lowest priority one as it pertains to the town of Ledger.
so I'm gonna flag that one too.
Yeah.
And that recovery planner was specifically recovery from the pandemic.
Exactly right.
Okay,
This is not like a town planner position.
This is just
Right,
COVID recovery.
right,
Yeah,
This
no.
is just helping you, you need, your businesses need help recovering. That person's there for them.
okay.
I don't
I'm
think that,
comfortable.
I'm comfortable with not
I am
scratching that
comfortable
one.
So I got that
scratching,
flag. Southeast Cultural Coalition, same amount, 28,399. And we talked about that. What do
I
we do
know.
with cultural?
so they are involved with the COG.
Mhm.
I asked Wendy Beery, the director, what does this mean in terms of these monies? And her response was that we would collect them, the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition, and then they distribute those funds back out to the arts in the community. What that means to us in terms of the community, again, I don't really know.
So to me, I think of the Guard.
Right.
And we all go, well, no, we maybe not all of us, but a lot of us go to the Guard, here in Ledger and other towns.
Okay, everybody's looking for who's
There's
phone.
phone being- not mine. Like,
So museums.
Yes. Right,
People in Ledger take advantage of things outside of town that are cultural.
Yeah.
So I would tend to
And-
say
yeah,
they
and-
struggle because nobody
Yeah.
is going to those things.
right.
So,
Yeah, so that's a consideration. I would also say that places like Norwich and New London that received $25 million apiece in COVID money sent handsome amounts of money to those same groups.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Like a
Okay.
very healthy
Okay.
six-figure. I almost think New London sent $500,000 to the Guard, if I'm
Yeah,
not
I
mistaken.
think
so they wouldn't notice our 28,000.
Probably not.
Let's flag that.
These are all in the SIP too.
Right.
Not yet.
That
No,
one was in the
they're in
SIP.
the SIP.
Well, it says they're in the SIP. That's what we're gonna do
I'm looking
tonight.
at the SIP.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
but I think we put a lot of stuff in the SIP for transparency.
right.
So that's just something that
So
we get
people
pulled
can-
back out.
Yeah, I'm not
Exactly.
even looking at the ARPA list.
Yeah,
I'm looking
okay.
at the SIP list because the recovery planner, cultural coalitions in
Yeah.
there. What was the other thing we talked about?
Uh,
Just for $30,000.
$30,000.
Oh, yeah, that was
Lead.
the lead paint
Lead paint.
That's what it
abatement
was.
for the
That's
Nathan
that's
Lester.
in here.
Okay,
So,
all right. Southeastern Council on Alcoholism, 25,000.
Yeah, that was the newest request. Again, it's just,
What is the
How is that
use?
different from like the Prevention Coalition or?
right, I mean, the Prevention Coalition deals with drugs and alcohol
Kind of
on the
skip agenda
hyper-local
items.
level, so
Huh?
Kind of skipped agenda. items.
Intentionally.
it's probably duplication, really, quite honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
Ledger Prevention Coalition, that's exactly what they do. So that request, and what I was trying to do was, as a request would come in, I would make sure that you got it, so you could make the decision on whether that was something you wanted to support or not. I personally didn't have any, not desire, that wouldn't be a fair statement, but I didn't have a feeling one way or another about supporting that request.
So here's my take on that. Towns are going to approve sale of recreational marijuana. Tax money collected on the
Right.
sale of that goes to things like
Right,
this.
right.
If
Mhm.
I understand the plan.
Yep.
So I think they're gonna be a wash of money.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna use that money to beautify the areas around the places that are selling the marijuana. And then they're gonna also use that money to help people with drug
Yeah.
dependency issues.
So devil's advocate, we've just come through a pandemic, we're not all the way through it, blah, blah, blah. People are depressed, some people are turning to drugs and alcohol more than they were before. So there's a need, but I think that knowing that towns are going to approve sale of marijuana, there is gonna be plenty of money to
Mhm.
combat drug addiction.
Isn't that ironic? Nobody sees the
That's
irony in that.
I do,
No.
I
Other word for
absolutely
it.
do.
I have other words for it.
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
not gonna say.
Ironic
because-
would be very
Yeah.
kind.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Right, so
are
I'm
in a
gonna,
public meeting. so.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna flag that one. Food pantry roof, 25,000. Unavoidable, right?
That's unavoidable. I think
It's
we-
unavoidable. I think the cost is a little bit high, but
Yeah.
how much high? Well, I mean, you think about asphalt shingles,
Yeah,
oil-based, pricey.
yeah.
You know, let's say it comes in at 18 versus the 25. Is it worth tinkering with right now?
think so.
Probably not.
6 doors in town hall, been on the list forever,
Right.
Oh, I know.
right?
We got
Um,
snakes that come through the holes in the, literally,
Great.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Roxanne's office. Remember that, Rox?
Yes, yes, we've had snakes in that building that you're sitting in right now.
Hundreds
Hundreds
left.
just left.
The corners of the
There were
doors,
snakes,
because
but-
they're
Yeah, yeah.
just steel, those
Right.
corners of the doors have rotted out and they slip
They
through.
go through.
All
I'd
right,
rather a
E-
snake than a mouse.
Yeah.
EV charging stations. I looked up the cost on this. It's remarkably low, $20,000, and I think that's for 2.
Okay,
So I think it's a good idea.
so who pays for the electricity?
Well,
Well,
so,
and so the
Right.
EV station is 20,000. What's the
Like,
installation?
is there a credit?
That's
card?
everything. That's
So that's
installation.
in 20,000
that's
installed?
station,
and
that's permitting.
maintenance, so maintenance of the stations. and
Maintenance is not
so
included,
maintenance is
but
Not included.
I'm thinking, I think it's just my crazy ideas. We should have a lottery for residents, restaurants on Route 12 and Gales Ferry. And one of them gets an EV charging station, and from then on, they take care of it. It builds traffic. You come in with your EV, you plug it in, you're going to have dinner.
Mhm.
Good for the restaurant. They can pay to take care of it from then on.
Might limit it to restaurants.
Who's gonna spend an hour
Right.
at
You've
doing
never seen my
anything?
wife at
before-
CVS, have you?
I was about to say.
Public meeting, Kevin.
I'm just saying.
Right, so you think about like, you've got Village, you got
Right,
Fireside,
right.
you got the Sunnyside Diner, which will be opening fairly soon.
I
But
mean,
even to
how
the
about
point,
with
Job lot and
The market.
Do people spend an
Yeah.
hour there?
Oh,
I-
job lot?
between that,
Yeah.
between job
Yeah.
lot, between
Okay.
job lot and Dollar
Right,
Tree?
so we
Yeah,
throw them all in.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Lottery,
pointing out.
somebody
my-
gets an EV charging.
Yeah.
station. Okay.
yeah.
Revinyl side, the food pantry. Gotta do it sometime.
Yeah, it's still first generation vinyl and it's starting to get very brittle.
And it looks,
Yeah.
Gales Ferry corridor study, 15,000. I think
Yeah,
we owe that to
we owe
Gales
that.
Ferry.
I-
Yeah, we
yeah,
owe
I-
that
I
to
think so, too.
everybody.
Lost my place. Solar charging stations, Town Green, Bill Library, Gales Ferry location, 12,000.
So those are almost like little low top bistro tables. The top is the solar panel, and then they have USB plugs down the sides for 8, 10, 12 different options.
It's a small dollar amount. I think it's gonna be great. Remember Irene?
Yeah,
Nope.
right, exactly.
So,
I mean, people looking to charge if there was a storm, and that's a nice plus that there's an option for people to charge. A lot of people could charge at a place like that.
So I'm gonna read the rest of these.
Okay.
They're small dollar amounts. ClearGov modules have to,
Yeah.
homeless hospitality should, Parks and Rec summer scholarships should,
Mhm.
Firehouse software have
What is
to.
the homeless?
Yeah, that's in New
hospitality?
London.
Yeah,
It's a homeless center in New London, and we just put in $10,000.
Yeah.
for
yeah,
folks
we,
there.
we have
Is this like a
former Ledger residents
regional-
that occupy space there.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Barbara
haven't heard of
Kill,
it.
who's a Ledger resident, works over
Works
there
over
as a
there, yeah.
volunteer, and I guess the need is pretty high.
Okay, Firehouse software, town promotional video, 6,000.
We
think we need-
already signed an agreement to do it for free.
There you go.
Yeah,
Oh, for
I was
free.
gonna say, I
Yeah.
thought that was a
So that-
Oh,
thing.
Yeah,
that's
well,
right.
yeah,
I thought that was essentially paid for by commercials.
Okay.
it is, it
Yeah,
exactly.
So
okay.
is.
that's.
So we can zero that out.
Zero that out.
I got it. Wi-Fi in the pantry, 2,500. I think that's a
That's the
need.
need.
That is a need. Holy cow, those people can't operate over there.
Okay. So while we're at it, let me tell you what I don't have in here. These are all the ones I have zeroed out already. Court of probate, we don't have a dollar amount.
Yeah,
5G and Legend Center, we think that's the carriers. I mean, this is all the,
Oh, yeah.
all the suggestions. Swimming pool, lighting for tennis courts, Highlands water main upgrades, we think we can do that with grants, and it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah, just take the ARPA fund and go here.
Yeah, regional water interconnection, that's already paid for, another source.
yep.
The Ledyard Center line phase 2. I don't have Sandy Hollow guardrails, that's 225,000.
And that was for steel ribbons, which nobody wants.
Correct. Although, not to drag the meeting out, I talked to some people and they said, well, it's an eyesore anyway.
Really?
Yeah, so,
Oh, the old broken off post with the rusty cables
Yeah.
laying there on the ground.
Hurts my soul to think about steel ribbon.
me too. Me too. All right, I'll
A
move on.
better option, just really quick, a better option is they have the same steel ribbons, but as rusted
Yes,
steel.
like on 184.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It blends
Yeah,
in
they
more
look
than the
nice.
galvanized.
Yeah.
Pre-rusted.
It looks like it comes pre-rusted. It
Do we get to
looks-
pay extra for the free
Right.
rust?
I don't know about extra, but it looks a lot, it blends
It's a
in.
patina.
far
It's a
better.
patina.
Okay, athletic field fence, 100,000. That's
Okay.
on the board of ed.
Yeah.
That's on the board, that's not right.
Solar powered crosswalk signs. My take on that was we put one out here and somebody gets run over in front of the Fox Run, and how come you don't have one there and we get sued?
Right.
I think we're more likely to get sued if we have one of those things. So,
Yeah,
just my. 2
I
cents.
cleared it with the town attorney, and there is a highway use limited liability thing that we wouldn't have to put them everywhere, but again, I don't care. I liked it. I thought it was a good idea because of the parallel parking that we have in
Yeah,
Ledger
Right,
Center.
right.
You can step out from behind a vehicle and, or a crosswalker would step out from behind a vehicle and there you are.
Yeah.
That was my immediate
So
concern.
do you want to put it back?
I like it. I think it's a plus. But again, if we have to cut stuff, we have to cut stuff. So
We've been cutting a whole bunch.
So how much of a, just
All right,
curious,
we ended
of
up-
what we've cut
yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
how much did that add up to
Let's see what we got.
before we go any further?
But we're definitely back to $500,000. Just in my head, I've tabulated that much, so.
I think we should keep going though. Why
We're-
stop?
we
Like,
just did.
We hit
That was
the
the-
end.
We
That
got
was
the
it.
end, we got
that was it.
the last one
That was
was
the
the
last.
the
that was the last
crosswalk.
item.
There was a street light, but that has since been replaced.
Yeah, that's got done.
So
That is a total of, that cannot be right. Maybe it is, 117,000.
Okay.
added to the 430.
Yeah.
Plus 17.
Mhm.
Yeah, assuming we're going back to the scenario
Yeah.
that we were talking about. So that bumps are well over
Yeah.
$500,000.
Yep.
So if we took those out, that'd be 117,000. We need 207. We need another 100,000 out of the remaining 190.
Well, so I did the math and with the new revenues, the
Yeah, yeah,
the
go ahead, go
prorated,
ahead.
the
Yeah.
prorated revenues. That gives us new revenue total of about $35,000. So it's the 12 plus the 14. plus the 9.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Right, so
Right.
that's 35.
Yeah.
Right, 208 is the goal because that's the original, that's the additional
Yeah.
That gets you to
expenses,
zero.
right? So 208 minus 35 is 173.
Mhm.
So we need to take 173 from ARPA,
Yeah.
which is below the 190 that we already have as a balance. And that goes towards road restoration, which would still require $103,000 from taxes. Because the total road restoration budget is 276 coming out of
Yeah.
taxes. So,
So let's do that another way, Tim. We just came up with 117.
well, the ARPA funds are different, though. That's all separate from the budget. Right, because the SIP is part of the budget, right?
Oh, I see
So,
what you're saying.
right?
Yeah,
So the ARPA's
yeah.
so all that discussion that we just had about which ARPA funds to eliminate, it comes out of the SIP, the ones that we
Right.
eliminated, the ones that are in the
Right,
SIP,
right,
come out of the SIP, but that doesn't affect the mill rate at all.
right.
That just
So,
moves the line over.
right,
Freeze up.
so that,
Mhm.
what I just went through, the numbers actually affects the mill rate.
Right.
Brings it back down to 0.1
Right.
increase. So,
So are you saying we take 173,000 from the
ARPA,
ARPA funds?
and put it towards road restoration.
Okay.
So in the column for SIP, when you look at the SIP,
Yeah,
it's got the columns for the revenue, right?
Yeah.
Where, sorry,
Yeah.
for the funding source, sorry.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
funding source for each project. Road restoration has has numbers in a lot of the columns.
Right.
And currently for road restoration in taxes is 276.
Right.
What I'm proposing is reducing that to 103 and taking the remaining 173 that you need.
Yeah.
That we just took
Out of
out
ARPA.
and putting that in the ARPA column for the SIP under road restoration.
But why wouldn't we also take the 117 that we just freed up in ARPA funds?
I just didn't think you wanted to do that because.
No, I'm
we're-
saying instead of 173,000.
Yeah.
Out of ARPA. Maybe we're all saying.
Oh, I see
I
what
think
you're
we're all
saying.
saying, we're all
Instead
saying
of-
the same thing,
Yeah.
just in a different way.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
But I mean, either way, you're still reducing.
It's the same color of money, unless
Right.
you're saying to not. Unless what you're proposing is not bringing us back down to a 0.1 increase.
I am saying go to
He's-
1.1.
Okay,
increase.
all right, okay. Yeah, so we're saying the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
same
saying
color of
different-
money. It
right,
doesn't really matter.
right. So basically, you cut the 117 of ARPA, what was
Well, that just
in the
goes back
SIP for
in.
ARPA stuff,
Yeah,
and
Right.
moved it over to the road restoration, which brings you down
Okay, I
to
get, yeah.
Yeah,
0.1.
So now we're 302,000 free, and then we're gonna take 173 out and put it in road restoration.
Right.
And we'll be
where'd
left,
the 302 number come from?
that's. So remember, we took out phase two.
Right,
That
Yeah, you have
left
to
us-
pay, that's right, the phase two money
Yeah,
too.
that left us 190,000. And then I added
Oh, I see what you're saying.
117 to
Right,
that,
right.
gotcha.
because
Yeah,
we just cut those
Yeah,
funds.
right.
yeah.
For the
We're
project.
doing the same math, just
Yeah,
differently.
Differently,
Yeah.
right.
So now we have
Yep,
302,000.
all right.
We take 173 and put it.
We got 120
to road
left
restoration,
over
and we
about,
got money
yeah,
left in-
yeah,
in
okay.
ARPA for.
And then I add on to the contingency,
Correct.
which
Right.
gives us
Right.
$550,000 of
for
contingency.
Yeah, okay.
Ish, round numbers, since he likes round numbers.
You okay with all
Did you
this?
get that?
So you're reducing the capital budget by 173,000.
No, we're reducing the capital budget by 117,
We're reducing the ARPA.
ARPA,
SIP
but which I
by
think all those items
117.
were, except for the sewer line extension, I think all those items were in the SIP.
And we're reducing the tax levy in the SIP on
Mhm.
road restoration by 173.
Right.
Yes,
That's
Yeah,
basically what I'm
Because
saying.
coupling that with
Yeah.
the revenue stream
Offset it for
items,
different
we
ways.
are covering
I knew
the
what he was
208.
asking.
Yeah.
Just not saying it.
Okay, right,
It's all coming
And
out.
that gets us to a
Different ways.
0.10.
it gives it back to a
And
0.1
that's
increase.
extremely palatable.
Okay. So. Now we need to figure out what the new budget numbers are. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, so I've got,
It's like he just-
Well, I mean, it's,
Figure it out.
from his perspective,
It's
it's very
173,
easy. It's
yeah,
just
right.
taking the 173 out of,
Plus the whatever the total was, 14, 12, and 9.
So, I mean, from the tax burden perspective, it's very easy, but one of the other things we're approving tonight is the SIP, right?
Right.
So we'll need to take that into account, even though that doesn't affect the taxes, because all the changes to the SIP that we're talking about were ARPA funded anyway. So that doesn't change the tax burden at all, but we need to make sure we remove those projects that we just talked about.
Right.
So,
That's what we're gonna do next.
Yeah.
I just love Excel. I hate my calculator. $208,000.
there you go.
So we're gonna remove 173 from the tax levy for SIP for roads. 14,000 from healthcare. We're gonna add revenue, 14,000 healthcare revenue.
Correct.
Premium. We're gonna add 12,000 for permit revenue.
Correct.
We're gonna add $9,000 for the adjustment.
What was that adjustment for again? Just,
There was a disconnect between the budget funded capital column in the SIP.
Yep.
And what was in ClearGov.
Oh,
The number in
okay.
ClearGov was too high,
Gotcha.
59,000 and change.
so it's just to align the two.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And there was that $50,000 adjustment for Steve's project.
Yep.
So that coupled with
Yeah.
9912 or something like that.
9115 was
okay.
the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
So that brings us to a mill rate. Let me just double check the math. I know it's right. Yeah, that brings us to a mill rate of 0.1
Quite one increase.
Yeah.
increase. Yep. Wouldn't that be something?
This isn't Greenwich.
Yeah, I know.
What is their mill rate?
12.
Well. But what's it equivalent
The
to tax?
lowest.
You know
Right,
what I'm trying to
right,
say?
right,
right.
So if you look at like, we're 30,
Yeah.
almost 34.
Yeah, a
Okay.
mill down there. So for us, a mill is like $1.12 million.
That's
Right.
revenue.
For
That's
them, a
revenue.
mill is like
That's an
$33
adjustment.
million.
That's
Right.
Oh,
Right.
So you look at, I mean, so, oh, they're only 13 mils.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
So it's 173 plus
Isn't that
9.
amazing?
So it's 182. Reduction in expense.
Coupled with a $26,000 increase in revenues.
Right. And so the easy answer is the budget is unchanged.
From
Expense
from a
budget.
dollar standpoint, there's no
Expense
change to the budget.
is unchanged.
Right.
And the mill rate is back to 0.1.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
So the change of the budget is the numbers that we have.
I just gotta find that somewhere now.
Oh,
Do you have it?
well, I've got the mill rate calculation up here.
No, all I want is the expenses, the total budget.
Yeah.
Here. If you write it in there, then I make the motion.
Actually, before I do this, Matt, that's what I'm looking at. Just make sure that's correct.
Where are you?
Your mouse doesn't work on my computer.
That's
Touche.
What am I looking at?
Oh, the top line numbers, so total expenditures,
Total expenditures,
because that's the total budget.
right, that was your starting point, but your total expenditures have dropped down
So
by.
that's why I was,
Oh, by
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at 63, 510, 221.
all right, 63,
510,
510,
221.
221. And do you have the general government and the Board of Ed numbers there?
Board of Ed didn't change.
Yeah, I just,
General.
Oh, I have it here.
29,
29,
087, 186.
087, so 29.
29, 087, 186.
Board of Ed, I guess I can take this down. If I add those two, they should equal the total budget, right?
Use Matt's mouse.
Yeah.
I found that my mouse, I think it stops working when I have it too close. This or mouse too
Oh,
close to the
yeah.
Pro.
Oh, the Alpha.
Oh, I got that text. I'm sorry I didn't respond.
That's fine.
There's gotta be a joke in there somehow about an owl and a mouse.
That's true.
The owl took the mouse.
Yeah.
So that's
Mouse is like,
when
"Run
I,
away."
when I add up the Board of Ed and then the new Gen Gov budget, that's what I get, which is not the 63 number that you gave me.
29061 186. And 3455 319.
I wrote down these two. Where am I at?
Up to 63 484 221 is what you're adding up to, right?
No.
No?
It was
Or
something I just
I
deleted.
heard 63.5 something.
I'm confused now.
Board of Ed didn't change. So
Nope,
Right.
that's easy.
I'm still not clear on why the numbers aren't exactly the same. Is it the $9,000?
Well, it's 9115.
Yeah.
I get 63 642 540,
Which is no.
which is not that, correct? I add 63 642 540. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-mm. It's only like 40,000 less than
So
the current one.
let's do this.
What'd you guys get?
63 642 540.
And I'm getting 63, 493.
General government. All right, try this.
Okay.
28954
Hold on, 28.
28,
2954 902
that's for Gen Gov.
Yeah, we
Gen
can go with
Gov.
that again, 28.
28954 902.
Yep.
And the Board of Ed
Yeah.
didn't change 34 555.
That adds up to that number.
Okay.
There you go. There's your motion.
Well. hold on. So that's increasing our total expenditures.
The net increase to general government is 26,000 because you got the 208 increase, but then you reduced it by that 9115. That was a capital adjustment, and then the change in funding for the roads was 172,885. So the net is $26,000 increase.
All right, so the expenditures are going up, but our revenue is also increasing.
Revenue increase at the same, exactly.
All right,
That's all right. Would you like to make a motion?
I don't know, I can't read Kevin's handwriting. Hold on. All right. Which agenda item is this? This is number one.
Mr. President.
All right. I move to recommend the town council adopt a proposed fiscal year 2022-23 budget in the amount of $63,510,221, comprised of general government of $28,954,902 and Board of Education of $34,555,319.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Counselor Summers votes aye, and the motion passes. Awesome. Thank you. Good work.
so you give that to.
Yeah, that goes through. Okay, so who'd like to make motion number 2?
Andre can do
Do
that.
that. I move that we amend a portion of the action approved at the January 12th, 2022 Town Council meeting as follows. Motion to appropriate 1.2 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, account for phase 1 of the Ledyard Sewer Line Extension Project.
Is there a
Second,
So this is something that we did as part of our adjustments for the ARPA funding that we've just been talking about. So we just need to recommend the town council change their original motion because we originally appropriated 2.76 million.
okay,
So now we're just doing phase 1. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. The motion passes. And now the SIP, I'm going to see if I can quickly come up with a new spreadsheet.
so on the agenda, it says review ARPA funding.
Which we just did.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not seeing SIP.
oh, crap. So maybe we do this. Dang it. So the SIP is part of the budget.
Which,
So maybe we're just doing an adjustment. So we're going to review the SIP
do,
and provide a final SIP spreadsheet to Matt for the council to vote on next week.
right, and,
Huh?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
and the budget numbers are still good because the SIP adjustments.
Correct,
don't
they don't
affect
change
another.
it,
Okay.
So the SIP revenue, the ARPA revenue goes in to match the increase, because we're adding more projects to the SIP that
Right.
weren't on it.
Right.
Marcia went through that last night. I went through it this morning. We just took 4 off. So I'm gonna come up with a list of here's what goes into the SIP, dollar amounts, send the spreadsheet to Matt. And that's part of the budget.
All right.
Yeah. Let me look at.
Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
We're still here. We're just playing with a spreadsheet.
No, I'm getting my laptop at home set up because I'm doing WPCA tonight too.
Right,
Oh,
right,
okay.
right.
Tina's not here and my laptop's going real slow, so I want to get it up and going in time for them. So that's what you're hearing. Although, I don't know why I'm having trouble. Usually it goes right up, but it's not right now. So I might have to leave you, Bill. I already made you co-host and
Okay. All right, that's fine.
my town. So I'm still recording you guys. I'm just on
Okay.
pause for WP.
Matt, in the SIP that's labeled finance working copy, if the request title has a has a strikeout, is struck through with red font, that means it's not in the SIP.
Yeah, I didn't do that, or
No.
make that adjustment.
Sandy Hollow guardrails is in here in the working copy, but it has a strike through just on the name, but the budget number is still in there.
What did we say on the solar power crosswalk? Did we decide not to do that? I think we did, right?
The crosswalks?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it red flag. Okay. So the new SIP is, I'm sorry, total ARPA funds is 3,586,246. Contingency is the same, 432. Total cost, 4,018,946. And the over under, we have 308,000 minus the 173 that go over to the tax levy for road maintenance. So I'll send you the new list, Matt, with the ones that go in the SIP. Just an updated spreadsheet of what Marsha gave us last night. And we can present this to the council next week if there's time at the end of the meeting. If we want to hear it. Or we can do it
Tomorrow.
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 Yeah.
Because it's Wednesday. and we're
It's
not-
Wednesday, so next Wednesday is a town council meeting.
Yeah.
Just what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for, did you go and flag what's coming out of the SIP?
Yeah,
Like
I
the
did. That's what I
projects?
was just doing.
Can we just,
so-
can we go through that?
Yeah, sure,
Just
sure.
Other than Fred's solar powered crosswalk sign.
Just dinging me on that.
Was court of probate still in there? Or we
Well, we don't
We don't have a
really
number.
know.
don't have a number yet.
It was a late entry. I'm going down there Friday with my counterparts from the other 3 towns to do a walkthrough of their existing facility and the proposal. But they don't have any numbers on build out costs. They have nothing.
Alright.
I don't know that.
It's
they'll
just,
even-
it's in here by title with no,
Right.
with no
With
name.
the TBD.
Right, so
Yep.
should it be in there? Right. So,
And I'm sure they're not gonna have,
Well, I
I'll be
mean-
shocked if they even have numbers on Friday.
Right, so it's not gonna be.
It's,
attended.
it's not in there.
Right, if-
I'm
could be a
I'm
zero
looking
in the
at
SIP.
what
Do I
was
have
sent
it?
out.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's
So-
it's a zero in the.
That's
SIP.
why we're doing this.
Okay. So,
Hey, Tony.
Let me just make sure it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 0.
so what are the
Okay,
projects?
so what came out was the following: lead abatement project, 30,000. SCOG recovery planner, 28,399. Southeast Cultural Coalition, 28,399. Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction, 25,000. And town promotional video, 6,000.
Okay.
And that is a total of $117,798. We good?
Yeah, it matches up.
Okay.
All right,
I don't think we have any other business. We do not. Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
We are adjourned without a.
No discussion.
There's been plenty of discussion.
All right, we're all done?
Yeah.
All right,
Number one on the chairman.
We're
pro tem list.
adjourned at
Mhm.
6:15.
recording
Is it
stop.
yelling?